And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Offensive Interference Podcast, episode 7. I am Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for being here. It is go time. Um, Happy National, or excuse me, Women's History Month. Um, and in honor of women's history, I really wanted to start off by paying homage to a woman who I believe should be going down as a luminary in the women's flag football world. She wasn't the first women's flag football player. She definitely not going to be the last, and it wasn't as if she was the greatest flag football player of all time. But um, Amanda Chromiak, and I hope I'm saying her name right, a Tampa girl, Robinson High School alum, UF alum, the founder of the University of Florida Women's Club Flag Football Team, who I believe to be the most successful women's flag football team in the country. It is immaculately run. It is stocked full of tremendous athletes. And what it shows me is it shows me what could be if the NCAA decided that they wanted to do what I believe is the right thing and add women's flag football as a sport. Could you imagine Florida, Florida State, Miami, Florida, USF, USF, UCF, Nebraska, like all of the luminaries, all of the great college programs and college athletics having a women's flag football team. Could you imagine the type of athletes that would get to continue on the sport that they love, because now they didn't just have to do basketball or soccer. They had another sport that was similar to that team sport that multiple people are doing something at one time. See, the problem with a lot of the women's sports that they add is they end up being more individualized sports. So you'll see teams who add women's track team but don't add a men's track team because they're trying to balance things out for Title IX. But when they do that, you miss the point. Like, yes, it's great that those women's track athletes get an opportunity to perform, but women want to be a part of teams just as much as men want to be a part of teams. And the beautiful thing about women's flag football is we know how many women out there love the sport. We know how many women out there are super athletic, but you know what? May not be the one percenter soccer player or may not be the one percenter basketball player. Well, what other team sport do they have outside of volleyball? And someone's going to kill me, and I hope not, because I may be missing a team sport somewhere in there. Obviously, field hockey, um, women's hockey, ice hockey. But the way that football moves and how everybody works together is very similar to the way that basketball and soccer have to work together. And so what Amanda Chromiak did is she went to college. She went to the college that I'm assuming she always wanted to go to. There's a lot of people that want to go to University of Florida, but she got to the University of Florida and realized, oh snap, the sport that I really love to do, and I understand she was a soccer player as well, but the sport that she really fell in love with in high school, flag football. She played all 4 years. She was a captain for 2 years at Robinson. She no longer got an opportunity to do so. She started this flag football team, and here's the awesome part about it. She was the engine that started the state championship run for Robinson High School in Tampa, Florida. 2014, she scored the only touchdown of the game. I remember it. I was there. And then she goes off to college and she starts this you know, University of Florida flag football team. And now they've made an epic run of three national championships in a row. I believe it was 17, 18, and 19, which she was a part of, I believe, the 17 team. So she was a part of the first team to start the dynasty for UF. And she was a part of the first team or captain on the first team that started the 5 out of 6 year dynasty for Robinson High School. That is phenomenal. And then this young lady went on to do what she wanted to do with her career. I believe she is in vet tech or veterinary assistant. I could be wrong. I think it's somewhere in medical, and I think for some reason in my head that it was with animals. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, Amanda, please forgive me. Um, but she started this program that has turned into a whirlwind. And shout out to them because they've been taking on their club team has been taking on because their season got dismantled by COVID as well. So they've been taking on some of these NAIA teams, and I'm just going to tell you, I don't know if there's one scheduled or there's not somewhere. I need to see UF women's club football play against um, play against Kaiser's women's football team. Because right now, that's the matchup I want to see. I don't know if I haven't seen the schedule and see if it's on there anywhere, but it needs to be. That's the game that I want to see. So, shout out to a fantastic woman, Amanda Chromiak, the founder of the UF Women's Club Flag Football Team. Amanda, if you are still in the Tampa Bay area, hit me up, social media, wherever. Next time I'm in Tampa, drinks on me. I promise you. Like I think what you've done sets the stage for what every college could do. And there's no reason why if you can operate as a club team at a high level in college, there's no reason why you can't operate as a fully integrated interscholastic team in college. So congratulations and shout out to Amanda Chromiak and everybody on the the UF Women's Flag Football Club team. Again, happy Women's History Month as we continue to celebrate our better halves, the people who make us look good all the time. Women, salute to you. So let's get into it. Our first down. When is it time to go? I think that a lot of times we sit back and we try to figure out what's the best time for us to make a move. And this obviously happens in every walk of life. This happens, in your job. In your career. It happens in relationships. Like when is it time to make that step to marriage? When is it time to get out the back door? Like when is it time to go? And I think in athletics, there are many times where athletes don't see the writing on the wall. But what I have enjoyed watching in college football this year, even though I'm not a huge proponent of this transfer portal, I have enjoyed watching players make moves that they feel are strategic in bettering their situation and chasing their dreams. Now, for every one, there's two that does something silly. But you have to appreciate the people who go and try to do things to better their situation. I have nothing but respect for that. I enjoy watching NFL players, especially the quarterbacks now, because those are the people with the power, hold their team's feet to the fire and say, you know what? This doesn't work for me. We don't have the same goals. I need to leave. And for them to have that chutzpah, for them to put that out there and take a chance of becoming the villain, I give them all the credit in the world. Like, to me, that's dope. Like, that's how you get things done from the other side. So now they're playing the game that the other side hasn't playing. And we got to champion basketball because those guys have been doing it from the beginning. They've been the ones who have really made it a point to take their, take their careers, take their futures into their own hands. They haven't sat around and waited for other people to make the decisions for them. They have taken the opportunity to make these things happen all on their own. And you have to appreciate the fact that these pioneers have done it and have shown the blueprint for this is how we get things done. I wonder why track people don't do the same. Like, I'm watching the young man from University of Arkansas um, as he goes through. I think this is his sophomore year, and I'm like, not University of Arkansas. Oh, excuse me, University of Georgia. Thank you. I remember Trevon Bromell was running times faster than collegiate in high school, and then he went to college at Baylor, and then kind of got lost a little in the shuffle. And has a professional career, but it's almost like, dude, why'd you go to college? I guess if it's your dream to go to college, I understand that. But really, if you go professional and you make money, you could always go back to college. And I could argue that it's almost going back with, an established, whatever, going back with money in pocket is a lot more fun than going to college broke. And so I wonder why we don't see more track athletes do that. I guess maybe it's because they feel like the margin for error is so much smaller. You may not. It's so finite to be an Olympian. But if you're that 1%, you got to strike while the iron's hot. When it's time to go, it's time to go. Like, what are we waiting for when it comes to knowing that it's time to go? In the NFL, excuse me, in the NBA, there is no advantage to staying another year. Because if you go to the league and you get that first 3 years, especially if you're going to be a first year, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to be a guaranteed first rounder, where you're getting guaranteed money for 3 years, you're going to bank that guaranteed money. And even if you're like a nobody, even if you're in the G League, you're still getting that guaranteed money. And the thing about it is, the training, the competition that you go against is going to be infinitely better than what's in college. The only thing that you can do in college that you can't do in the league if you're not like a major, like if you're not getting major minutes, is you can raise your public profile. But if you're just trying to become a career basketball player, go to the league. Look at how many players we see in the NBA right now who are not lottery picks, who are balling out, because those guys came in ready to go. They came in ready to play. They didn't waste time. Now, again, you see it work the other way. You see guys spend 4 years in college and it works out. But so many times you see that by the time that person gets through their rookie deal, they get a deal that's ridiculous. And you go, but that guy only averaged like 7 points, and then the next year he's averaging 15. Well, that guy only averaged 12, and then the next year he's averaging 22. Because they're still taking babies in the NFL. I mean, in the NBA. When you're coming into the NBA at 19, and your first contract's now when you're 20, your next contract's now when you're 22, 23 years old, you're still a baby. You're not even into your physical maturity yet. So everything continues to go up from there. It's a beautiful thing. Um, so you have to know when it's time to go. Like, when is it time to just get out of college and go? And I think about Trey Lance, and I don't think Trey Lance is ready for the NFL. I've been on record as saying I don't think that I don't. He's not a first round quarterback for me right now. He has all of the talent, but he's young, inexperienced, has a lot of things to work on. I was not impressed with the same film that some other people were impressed with. However, he had to go because he was never going to be more popular, more hype than what he is right now. And if he had gone back to North Dakota State, they wouldn't have went to look for the improvements. They would have dissected all of his negatives. They do it to every quarterback like him. I remember Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. He couldn't go to the NFL. He had to come back for another year. He won the Heisman, came back, had another phenomenal year, and all they did was talk about his negatives. Tried to make this man a wide receiver, a defensive back. They said, "Oh no, well, we're not saying he can't play quarterback in the NFL. We're just saying that his ceiling is higher at wide receiver or at defensive back, positions that this man has never played in his entire life. He's been a quarterback forever." So when I looked at Trey Lance, I 100% understood why he needed to go right now. He couldn't wait because any more film that he put out there would have been another negative. All of the film that he put out there would have been another negative. I'm not mad at anybody. When it's time to go, it's time to go. I think Travis Etienne actually did himself a disservice by coming back. Now, maybe his goals are different. Maybe he thinks to himself, "Oh, well, I'm going to go down as one of the greatest in Clemson history." And if that's the case, then you did the right thing. You're going to go down as one of the greats in Clemson history. But there'll always be that quarterback next to your name because you got a chance to play with all of the greats. You got a chance to play with the two greatest quarterbacks in the history of Clemson football, which means that you're never going to get the due that you should. You're never going to get the respect that you should, Travis Etienne. You should have just went to the league. You know why? Because for running backs, when it's time to go, you got to go. You got to go. That in the NFL, you can't wait. In college, you can't wait. When it's time to go, when you have the opportunity to go, because your window is so small, because they started to value you so quickly, when it's time to go, it's time to go. So shout out to the basketball players for understanding that. Shout out to the quarterbacks in the NFL for understanding that. And shout out to the people who are not waiting around for their red shirt junior year or their senior year or fifth year because they know they have an opportunity to strike while it's hot. I didn't understand why Jamie Newman didn't play, but upon further review, I get it. He could have only hurt his stock if he played at Georgia. And somebody might disagree with me, but if he had started off the season like Georgia, who was discombobulated, it wasn't just the quarterback. The entire team had a little bit of disjointment to it. If he had started off with that team, they would have buried him. He would have never even gotten drafted. He is, for my money, he's the number 3 quarterback in this draft. It's Lawrence and Fields, 1A. It's Jamie Newman. Then it's Zach Wilson. And then it's everybody else. So when you got to go, you got to go. And I appreciate people who understand when it's time to go. Second down, self-fulfilling prophecies in the NFL. I think that it's interesting how we look at the running back position. The running back position used to be an extremely high value position in college and in the NFL. And here's the truth: it's still just as important as it's always been. The difference is that people don't believe that one running back is as important. So they devalue the worth of the running back by saying that you shouldn't pick a running back in the first round. Well, okay, so if I say, if I say, um, you should never, you should never um, drink, you should never drink wine and alcohol in the same night, because if you do, you're going to get sick. And I drink alcohol and wine one night and get sick, and it could be because of that, or it could be for whatever other reason. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to drink it anymore. I've essentially made it true, because the only evidence that I have is the evidence that I've produced, which is I drank both, I got sick. Well, if you don't take running backs in the first round because you devalued them, you can't then turn around and say, oh, look at all of these steals that we found in the second, third, and fourth round at running back. You can't do that. You've already said we're going to push the best talent back to the second round and maybe even the third round. So how can you then say, well, we found value in the second and third round with guys who in other drafts back before you devalued the position would have gone in the first round? You want to know a position I think that is overvalued in the first round? And people may not believe it because you find talented ones. Offensive line. I'm on record. I believe that offensive line is the most overhyped position when it comes to taking talent in the first round. When I look around the league, I see guys who were not drafted in the first round starting all over the place. In fact, I see a whole lot of undrafted free agents that are starting on teams over people who were first round draft picks. You know why? Because in every draft, there's one, maybe two guys that are legitimate, come in, ball the hell out, you deserve the first round. But because people have put the emphasis on it, a self-fulfilling prophecy, hey, we need to build through the trenches. Yes, you do need to build through the trenches. That doesn't mean you have to build the trenches through the draft. So if I say I have to build through the trenches, and the best way to do that is through the draft, and then you take offensive linemen who should be second and third and fourth rounders, possibly in the first round, you've overvalued the position. So now, what do? You've got no other choice. Now you're saying, oh, well, I need a first rounder. Well, of course you think you need a first rounder because you saw six go in the draft, but look at the draft. Look at the offensive tackles last year that were taken in the first round. There were only two that were good. The rest of them struggled. There were only two that were good. And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't the first and the second ones taken. It wasn't the top ones that were good. The other ones that struggled, there were two that were really good. The others struggled. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to be good. I didn't say that you can't get good talent, but I'm saying, what's the difference between the first round draft pick that the New York Giants played at left tackle and the late round draft pick that they ended up starting at right tackle? They're both starting. They're both struggling. They're both starting. If you continue to work with them because they're going to become grown men, they're 21 and 22 years old right now. Of course, they're struggling versus 28-year-old grown ass men or 24-year-old uber athletes. Of course they're struggling. They're not men yet. They're still kids. They don't have it here mentally, and this is not just at those two guys. This is at all of these young offensive line. They may not have it here mentally, they may not have it physically, but we expect them to come in and be grown ass men from the beginning. It's asinine. So when we have a self-fulfilling prophecy, what do? People keep telling me you got to take quarterback in the first round. Oh man, you gotta get a franchise quarterback. Okay, yeah, I agree. Who the hell says that franchise quarterback has to be in the first round? Look, or in the top 10 picks of the first round. Look around. Look around college. It's a ton of good quarterbacks. Now look in the NFL. How many of the really good quarterbacks are first round draft picks that are playing with their team currently? And I don't mean like back into the first round. Because don't give me that whole Lamar Jackson was a first round pick. Lamar Jackson was devalued, and he was almost a second rounder. And if there had been another person in the draft that they could have put ahead of him, they would have, and he would have been a second rounder. Dak Prescott, not a first rounder. Russell Wilson, not a first rounder. We can go on. There are more examples. The point is that if you create a self-fulfilling prophecy that says that we need to draft this is the value, then of course that's what it is. You know why Dak Prescott got paid $40 million and all of you haters are so mad at it? Because someone somewhere said that you have to pay a quarterback regardless of the money. And someone somewhere said that it doesn't even matter if they're a top level quarterback. If they're the next franchise guy up for a check, they're going to get the highest paid check. And you damn right I'm going to root for Dak Prescott to get that money the same way that Carson Wentz, who wasn't even up for a contract yet, got that extension. The same way that the Rams mortgaged their future on a quarterback before they had to. Of course, I'm a root for Dak to get that money because everybody else has gotten that money. Why should he take the pay cut when nobody else did? And don't give me the Tom Brady took the pay cut. Tom Brady hasn't taken pay cuts. Tom Brady is restructuring money. He just doesn't get it all up front. He just keeps restructuring money. Oh, by the way, in New England, his whole institute that he created, you think that every player has an opportunity to acquire land right next to a stadium, a facility that they can kind of pair? You think every player gets an opportunity to bring their outside people into the fold of the no. So he got his compensation in other ways, and shout out to him for doing it. I ain't mad at him at all. But I'm also not mad at that Prescott because you guys made this what it is. If it was left to me, I'd do things completely different with how we allocate what's important, what's not important. But it's not left up to me. So we're going to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to play the same game. So don't tell me, I don't want to hear, oh, this running back's a really good, oh my gosh, this guy was a steal in the third round when he really should have been a first rounder or a second rounder. But because you pushed the position back, now they're second rounders and third rounders. I don't want to hear, oh, you shouldn't pay this running back when that running back accounts for a large percentage of your offense's production. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know what else to tell you. Third down. This goes out to all of my high school athletes. It doesn't matter whether you're a football player, basketball player, whatever. You got to be careful. You got to be careful on how you market yourself. Many of you are out there trying to be a marketer and you don't have any experience at it. You're out there trying to market yourself and you're listening to people who don't know what they're talking about. I don't profess to know everything or be the best at everything, but anyone who knows me knows that I know a lot about this stuff. And that is, I know what colleges are looking for when they're looking for you. And every single day I turn on Instagram, I turn on Twitter, I turn on Facebook, and I see videos of kids doing workouts. I see highlights of kids that are not highlights. I see them doing workouts where they're using improper technique. I see them doing things that send up red flags to colleges. Oh man, that kid can't bend at the waist. I'm watching this offensive lineman get into a stance and noticing that he can't bend, he can't sink his hips. He's a waist bender. He doesn't have good hips. Why would you put that on camera? Why not work out in silence? Why not work out in private? Who's the person telling you that you have to put this video of you running around a cone on film so that everybody can see it? If it's not impressive, then don't put it out there. And just because you think it's impressive doesn't mean it's impressive. Now you might say, "Oh, I'm gonna do what I want. Like, this is my life." Okay, cool. All right. But there's a reason why so many of you say, "Oh, well, I'm doing this and this and this and this, and I'm going here and I'm going there." For who? How are you getting better? You do not get better in front of the camera. You get better behind the scenes. Let the front of the camera be where you show the fruits of the labor. So don't give us the video where you're working on the technique. Give us the video where you've put the technique into practice. When you've put it into a game. We don't want to see you practicing one-hand catches. So then when I turn on the film, I see you make that one-hand catch on your highlight, but I watch you drop 3 other balls because you never looked them into your hands. Get a second opinion. As a matter of fact, because some of your second opinions suck, get a third opinion. Hell, send all your videos to me. If any of my players, over the years, if they'll tell you anything about me, I'm gonna keep it blood raw. I'm gonna keep it 100. If it's bad, I'm gonna say it's bad. If it's good, I'm gonna say it's good. If it should be out there, I'm gonna say it'll be out there. I can go online right now. I can look at 50 highlights. I guarantee you, I could cut out half to 3/4 of the clips on their highlights because they're simply not highlights. Highlights versus bad teams are not highlights. If that's all you got, that's all you got. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Highlights of you getting through the line, not being touched, and sprinting away from people who all look like they run a 5 flat, that's not a highlight. 1-yard runs are not highlights. Tackles that you make 5 and 6 yards down the field and 7 yards down the field, they're not highlights. Because someone's going, how did that person get by you in the first place? I see people doing beautiful things like giving you guys checklists on, hey, These are the things, this is what you should have on your highlight. Yet I still see bad highlights. Coaches are telling you this is awful. Stop sending us this. Stop putting this out into the world. And you continue to put it out there. Are we gluttons for punishment? Or do we just not know? And if we don't know, get a second, get a third opinion, please. You're hurting yourselves. Don't make it easy for them to dismiss you. Don't make it easy. Fight. Work. Maybe one less camp, one less exposure combine. For every one less camp, 15 more extra more workout sessions. Bust your butt. If you wanna post any type of workout video, post a workout video where you are killing yourself, where you just look like you're working hard. That holds more weight than the skill development videos that you're doing. It's only good video if the technique and the skill has been fully developed. And then the only way to truly know if it's developed is for you to show them in the game. So here's what I'm gonna tell you should be a good one for you. Do some videos of skill developments, then go and find highlights where you can show the skill that you're practicing, and then how you put it into practice in a game. That is impressive. That will make people notice you. But if you're just showing me like, oh, I'm a defensive lineman, so on the air I'm just swiping that. I'm a defensive lineman, so I'm showing you my ladder. I'm an offensive lineman, so I'm showing you my ladder drills. Get a second. Get a third opinion. Trust me, you will be better off for it. That's all. And that brings me to fourth down. It's been a pretty quiet week in the South for NAIA women's football, flag football. I almost don't want to say flag football. I just want to say football. I don't know. You know what? Yeah, I'm just going to say women's football. Nope, I have to say flag football because there is women's football. That's why. So it's been a quiet week in the South for NAIA women's flag football because there were some teams that didn't play because they had to back off because of possible exposures or whatever. We understand it. This is a brand new world that we live in. So when we look at our rankings, it's pretty much going to be the same or similar as last week, but with a few changes. Well, not a few changes, but a little wrinkle. So first off, shout out to some honorable mentions. We already talked about the University of Florida's women's club team. They were dominant this past week. They were drilling teams, and you got to really appreciate what they do. Shout out to Xavier University in Louisiana, who was able to get their first win of the season over Milligan University. They won 14-6. Milligan, way to bounce back from that 80-something to 0, loss. You got to appreciate teams that continue to fight. Also, honorable mention goes out to Midland University, who got 2 wins. They were able to secure 2 wins this past week, this past weekend, excuse me. A big 56-0 win over Xavier and a 54-0 win over Milligan. So shout out to Midland for their for their work this week as well. But any more shout outs? Let me make sure before I go on into top 5. No, I think that's pretty much it for them. Shout out to the teams that are still getting started. Shout out to the teams that are still finding their way. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the finished products look like towards the end of the year when you get into conference tournament play and into NAIA championship play. But my top 5, number 5, Stillwater University. They were postponed. They were supposed to have a doubleheader versus St. Thomas and Kaiser. They were supposed to kind of do like a um, tri-team thing, and so they had to pull out, and those games were postponed until later. So hard to pull someone down, and nobody from below them really stood out to drop them off the top 5. So they will remain as the number 5 team. The number 14, St. Thomas University. They actually lost, but they lost. They lost to Kaiser, and they lost 19-6. And so, like, I had to give a little bit of love for them, showing that defensive prowess and really, making Jasmine Rhodes struggle at quarterback. She missed a lot of throws. She also had 2 interceptions. She did, however, account for a touchdown reception, and I think she ran for another like 40 plus yards, but definitely not the Jasmine Rhodes we saw last week. Number 3, Ottawa University. Ottawa University lost to the University of Florida, which we've established is probably the best women's team in the United States when it comes to flag football. Definitely the best organization in my eyes. They lost 20-6. That was respectable because Florida's been blowing people out 40 something to 0, 30 something to 0. So losing 20-6 is nothing to sneeze at. Madison Carrera had almost 300 yards in total offense. You know how hard that is in flag football to get almost 300 yards in total offense. It says a lot about what she was doing out there. She was putting in work. Number 2, Weber International. Oh, excuse me. That's supposed to be number 3 was Weber International. And number 2 was Ottawa. So Ottawa, I apologize. I actually rose you in the rankings after that UF game. Weber International, their game was postponed, and I know I didn't drop Warner, but I was impressed with Ottawa's performance versus Florida because you know how high I hold Florida in esteem. Weber International, they were postponed. They were supposed to play Florida Memorial. They didn't play. They'll get back at it here soon. So they are number 3. Ottawa's number 2, as I just was talking about. And number 1 remains Kaiser University. And Kaiser University, we already talked about, they beat St. Thomas 19-6. People can't score on them. 19-6. I believe that despite Rose throwing 2 interceptions, Elise Liggett, who is the backup quarterback, but also I believe plays other positions, she threw 2 touchdowns. Maria Vega, defensive player, had an interception that went for a touchdown. That was a pick 6. So if you think about the game, at 19-6. It was probably the game clinching touchdown. It put it out of reach. She stepped in front of it. 19 yards later, she's in the end zone. Also added 2 tackles. Maria Vega, defensive player for Kaiser University. So I left them at number 1. I think they're probably going to be number 1, although I do want to see them play UF. I really want to see them play Florida. Somebody please let me know. Is there a game scheduled between Kaiser and the University of Florida? And if there's not, why is there not a game between Kaiser and the University of Florida? I definitely want to see it. So shout out to the ladies. Another week. Continue doing your things, ladies. We really do love you. We really do appreciate what y'all are doing. Love watching y'all play. Love that sport. Shout out to all the high schools that are going through flag football right now. You're in the thick of it. Keep fighting. Shout out to the people who've already completed their season. Hopefully, you're having success at the other sports that you play, like soccer or softball, because we know that most of our flag football athletes, women flag football athletes, also play other sports. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to number 1 Kaiser University. And once again, shout out to our spotlight of the day, Amanda Chromiak, founder of the UF Women's Club Flag Football Team. We really do appreciate everything that you brought to the game of women's flag football, and we wish you well. Hopefully you're enjoying a nice beverage for all of your hard work, and shout out to those ladies and to the coaches for everything they do at the UF Women's Club Flag Football. So that's a fantastic thing. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, or make sure that you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Coach Gene Clemens, Offensive Interference Podcast webcast is getting more regular every week. I've kind of put myself in a position where I have to come back and talk to you every week, because I got to give you these updates in the NAIA women's flag football. So I might as well talk to you about everything else. Make sure that you're looking out for our features that are coming. I've been teasing winging it for a long time. Trust me, it's coming. I'm really going to enjoy it too. You would have had it before, but obviously the world broke. And so now, as we start coming out of this, I'm already 1 shot in. I'm waiting on my 2nd shot. We're going to get an opportunity to get back out there and get popping again. And when I do, I'm going to have some fantastic guests. So you're going to want to sit, have some wings with us as we talk sports and life and everything else in between. But until next time, I've been Coach Gene Clemens. Y'all have a fantastic one. Be safe, be blessed.